Tim Pool destroys Kamala Harris live for BLM rejecting her. Aren't these supposed to be her people? Hey, you are watching Bring the Asteroid. Make sure you like today's video, leave a comment, subscribe, and we'll get into it.
Story from SCNR.com. BLM, Black Lives Matter, Pans DNC as party of hypocrites for installing VP Harris as Democratic nominee. We do not live in a dictatorship. Delegates are not oligarchs. I have tremendous respect for whoever took over that Twitter account, that X account, and is calling out the DNC for doing exactly what we've been calling him out for. We have this thread from Black Lives Matter on X, verified account. How many followers they got? 1 million followers. Sunday, Joe Biden drops out. Kamala announces campaign with Biden endorsement. Kamala says she's going to work hard to earn the nomination. Kamala makes calls to party delegates Monday. Kamala Harris continues making calls to party delegates. Kamala Harris makes 2 public speeches. The Associated Press announces Kamala Harris has secured enough delegates to be the nominee by Monday night. Kamala releases a statement noting she has worked hard to go out and earn this nomination as promised. A 24-hour process of talking to party bosses is not democratic, nor is it a process Democrats should be proud of. We do not live in a dictatorship. Delegates are not oligarchs. Installing Kamala Harris as the Democratic nominee and an unknown vice president without any public voting process would make the modern Democratic Party a party of hypocrites. We call on the DNC to create a process that allows for public participation in the nomination process, not just a nomination by party delegates. Hear, Black Lives Matter. And I want to say this. We were just at the RNC, the Republican National Convention, and it was a whole lot of fun. Had a cheeseburger with a gluten-free bun. How about that? And many people asked if we're going to be at the Democratic National Convention, to which I said absolutely not, because I've grown quite fond of living. I do not want to go to the DNC where it's going to be violent and chaotic. Several people asked me, why would the DNC be more chaotic than the RNC? Wouldn't the left protest the right? Absolutely not. There were some protesters. They stood outside, they waved little flags, and they complained, and they said Donald Trump should be in prison. And we said, okay. And that was it. The DNC is the door for the far left extremists. The far left protesting the RNC is basically them trying to scale the Great Wall and to break their way in. That's an absurdity. The Democratic Party, however, is a door guarded by a few party elites that they feel they can break down. Now that Kamala Harris is trying to play the I just get to be the nominee game, and the progressive far left wing, especially with that protest we saw in D.C. of the anti-Israel groups taking over, these people are not going to accept this. So it's going to be a brokered convention. And just like in 1968, it will be a brokered convention. And they also expect it is going to be bedlam outside.
What's a brokered convention?
There's no stated so normally in a primary process, everybody votes. The delegates from the area where the vote takes place are pledged to support the person people voted for, kind of like the Electoral College. So you've got like 5 delegates in one area, and they say everybody votes for Joe Biden. Those delegates are loyal to Biden. They show up at the convention, and they cast their vote. A brokered convention, they can do whatever they want. There's no nominee. So Kamala Harris calls up all these delegates and says, you're going to vote for me? And they said, you got it. And she publicly announces, I've got the nomination. So the far left is not going to have it.
Right. It deters anyone else from challenging her. It was amazing to me how quickly everyone sort of got in line behind Kamala Harris, who, let's remember, was a farther left option who did not make it very far when she ran her own presidential campaign. But it's like of the 47 Democrats in the Senate, 45 had already thrown out endorsements for her. One of the only ones who hadn't, well, one was Bob Menendez, who's, going to resign has resigned, and he was found guilty. So he's kind of in an outward position anyways. But then also it's John Tester from Montana, who probably can't come out and endorse Harris because he's in a state that is likely going to get flipped. I mean, there's a very serious belief that that will become a Republican seat. And then in the House, it's like, I think in total I have 192 people have already endorsed, of like 212 have endorsed Harris. I mean, they just fell in line so quickly, including Chuck Schumer, who waited 48 hours and then said, now that the process has played out, we're going to endorse Harris, which is like, what process?
Dude, and you see when he clapped for himself and nobody clapped?
Yeah, it was really...
like Kamala won, and then no one clapped.
It's like, oh, okay, I'm clapping.
On my drive over here, I was like, okay, this is the party that's been screaming about protecting democracy. We have to stop the threat to democracy. Then a candidate gets installed. And I see people posting about how grateful they are that a candidate got installed, threatening the democratic process for the people that are afraid of the threat to democracy.
There were complaints in 2016 when Hillary Clinton, it seemed like the process was rigged in 2016. And so then to be reliving that.
Seemed like.
Yeah, I mean, it clearly. was rigged in 2016. And yeah, I mean, this is even worse. I mean, at least that played out over a primary season. And here it's like this bait and switch where there have been primaries and caucuses for Biden. And then, like I said, overnight turn of a switch. I think it is.
I think it was the plan.
Yeah, I mean,
because you look at 2016, we know that there were a series of, let's just call them awkward moments. And I'll clarify this too, rigged. Of course, the far left and the media is going to attack that by making the claim that we're saying Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton went behind closed doors and shifted votes. No. The media was colluding. The party officials were working to the greatest extent imaginable to block Bernie Sanders. We know that, like, Hillary Clinton was given the questions in advance by, I think it was Donna Brazile. I could be wrong. It's been a long time.
Donna Brazile.
Yeah, and then you had the WikiLeaks emails that got WikiLeaks released the emails, and we saw great party collusion to block Bernie Sanders, the popular Democratic choice. Once again in 2020, all these candidates unite against Bernie Sanders, endorse.
Yeah, remember that Super Tuesday election where it seemed like Bernie was going to win the primary for 2020, or was it 2016? I forget. 2016, I think, or 2020. No, I think it was 2020. Brain moment. When people just randomly dropped out and all supported Bernie. That was crazy. That was crazy. You never can predict things in politics. But I remember, and I forget who I was watching when they said this, but someone said that Democrats behind closed doors, when Biden was still the nominee, that Democrats behind closed doors would tell people, yeah, Biden's not going to be the nominee. We don't want him, whatever. But they would never say that on camera. So Tim's exactly right. That's how Democrats and the media, they were colluding. They had this all planned out. Kamala's probably known that she's going to be the nominee for at least a year now, if I had to guess. At least a year. And then with how bad Biden did during the debate, it was so exposed that he's not just senile, he's like exponentially more senile. So they got to do the quick switcheroo. And they had to do it not too far away from the election because they want to give the media and the people, media that actually does correct and proper journalism, they want to give the least amount of time for criticism and dirt to come out about Kamala.
Force Joe Biden to shift all those votes. And I think the reason they did this structure, keeping Joe Biden as long as possible, was to block any other grassroots contender. Because let's be real, RFK Jr. would be the Democratic nominee.
Yeah, that's a good point from Tim, for sure.
Were it not for this game they played, Kamala Harris could not get a single, she didn't get a single delegate. Not one. She drops out in disgrace, and now she's the nominee? By what metric should she be the nominee? Black Lives Matter, bravo for calling her out. But I'll say it, Chicago is going to be, let's just pray for our friends and families in Chicago.
Yeah, you got to pray for them in Chicago, and now Kamala's trying to run as a centrist candidate. And of course, you see rhinos and moderates and Democrats rallying behind her. But the far left and real conservatives, we know what's up. She's running a general election campaign in the middle because naturally, primaries, you go more to the left or the right on the extremes. And then during generals, you come to the middle because you need to get the most average voters, right? You need more voters. But yeah, hopefully Kamala does not become president because that would be pretty awful for America. Hope you enjoyed today's video. I'll see you next time.